think about your childhood, there's probably a cartoon that instantly comes to mind. One you couldn't wait to watch every day. Maybe you caught it while eating breakfast before school or during those long summer afternoons with a snack in hand. Whatever the case, we all have those cartoons that shaped our childhood and hold a special place in our hearts. For me, cartoons weren't just something to pass time. They played a huge role in shaping who I am today. Recently, I went back and rewatched a lot of the shows I grew up loving. And honestly, some of them did not hold up the way I remembered. But then there were the ones that still gave me the same feeling that I had when I was a kid. Pure entertainment. So today, I'm diving into this nostalgic pool of childhood favorites and ranking my top 15 cartoons. Now keep in mind, this is purely my opinion. If you don't agree,
okay.
No, but for real. I know everyone has their own personal favorites, and some of these might not even make your top 10. And that's totally fine. We can all appreciate different things. I also want to point out that I grew up in the early 2000s and 2010s era of cartoons. So most of my picks are from that time. Some of these shows may still be running today, but I'm ranking them based on how they were when I watched them as a kid. None of that new stuff. It was so hard to narrow this list down to just 15. Originally, this video was supposed to be my top 10 favorite childhood cartoons, but I kept going back and forth and I couldn't just leave certain shows out. So here we are. But before we jump in, I just want to give a quick shout out to some honorable mentions. Shows that I still love but didn't quite make the cut for my top 15. In no particular order, those are Avatar: The Last Airbender, My Life as a Teenage Robot, 16, Totally Spies, Winx Club, and the Powerpuff Girls. These are all amazing shows, but they didn't make the final list for me. Alright, now that all of that is out of the way, let's get into my top 15 childhood cartoons.
This electricity bill is outrageous, and I won't pay it! Ooh, I didn't know you were so strapped for cash. Will you take a check?
In 15th place, I have Jimmy Neutron. It was a show I really enjoyed as a kid, though I wouldn't say it was the absolute best for my childhood. Still, it was definitely one of my favorites, so it had to make it onto my list. The show was well written and had a lot of great jokes, with characters like Hugh, Sheen, and Carl providing plenty of laughs. While the show did get some criticism for its animation, I think it's important to remember that it used early CGI. Given that, I actually think it holds up better than most people give it credit for. One detail I really appreciated was when they give Libby braids after she discovered her connection to an ancient Egyptian queen. They could have easily made this just a one episode thing, but they made it a permanent change and I love that. It was a great representation of hairstyles I wore growing up. The show also featured so many foods I wanted to try as a kid, like the purple candy Jimmy invented that everyone was fiending over, the purple Flurp, and the ice cream they always got at the candy bar. Overall, I really liked Jimmy Neutron. It had an original concept and the theme song went crazy.
Yes, 626 was smart, funny, cute, and as we know, fluffy.
Coming in at 14th place, I have Lilo and Stitch the series. This show was always such a joy to watch. I loved tuning in to see which new experiment Lilo and Stitch would encounter next and discovering what kind of unique power it had. Each episode followed a fun yet meaningful formula. The experiments would start off as chaotic, seemingly dangerous creatures, but by the end, Lilo and Stitch always found a way to help them calm down and use their abilities for good. It was so refreshing to see how a show can take characters that were originally designed to be evil and instead give them purpose, friendship, and a sense of belonging. The idea that finding the good in others really stuck with me and became one of my favorite aspects of the series. Visually, I also really loved the animation. The colors were bright and well saturated, making a tropical setting feel warm and inviting. There was also just something about the art style that was really appealing to me. That being said, I do prefer the movies Lilo and Stitch Has the Glitch over the series. Those movies played a bigger role in my childhood and held a lot more emotional weight for me. But still, the series was a fantastic continuation of the world and characters I loved, and I always enjoy watching it. In 13th place, I have to put Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. This show was truly one of a kind. The concept of children's imaginary friends taking on a physical form, and once outgrown, finding a new home where they could be adopted was such a creative and heartwarming idea. As a kid, I remember wishing I could visit Foster's myself just to adopt my own imaginary friend. The show's uniqueness didn't stop at its premise. The opening sequence was just as special. Watching the Foster's home get sketched out and come to life in the theme song was fire. I would never skip it because I loved seeing that animation unfold. Beyond that, Foster's was the ultimate comfort show. It was one of those series I can put on anytime and just relax and even fall asleep to. And I mean that in the best possible way. And of course, I can't forget Cheese. He was both ridiculously annoying and absolutely hilarious. He's literally the embodiment of my brain at 4 a.m. This show holds a special place in my heart, and there was no way I wasn't including it in this ranking.
Dad, I have a problem.
Frankly, your mother has the good advice vis-a-vis boy trouble.
Oh, this isn't about a boy, it's about Ron.
At 12th place, I have Kim Possible. I really enjoyed this show, especially the concept of Kim balancing a double life. High school student by day, world-saving hero by night. It kinda gave me Hannah Montana vibes if it was an animated series. Except, instead of being a secret pop star, Kim was fighting crime and taking down villains. One of my favorite aspects of the show was Kim's relationship with Ron. Their dynamic was always fun to watch, and I loved that eventually they ended up together by the end of the series. It was such a satisfying payoff for their long-running friendship and partnership. I also really loved Kim's enemies, especially Dr. Draken and Shigo. Shigo in particular was my favorite. She was so effortlessly cool. I always looked forward to her fights with Kim. Not just for the action, but for the quick conversation they would have before every fight and the shots they would throw at each other. It was so funny to me and also showed that in some ways they had more in common than they would admit. Honestly, in a different universe, I could see them being friends. The show also had some other fun villains like Senior Junior, and his father Senior, who always cracked me up. And of course, I can't forget the iconic theme song. It was so good. I remember so many people in middle school having their ringtone as the communicator notification sound. Plus, as a kid, I always wanted to try the nacho that Ron would eat at Bueno Nacho. It looked so good, and I was convinced it had to be one of the best fast food creations ever. Overall, Kim Possible is a great show, and it definitely deserves a spot on my list.
No. Hi! It's over here!
Coming in at 11th place in my list is My Little Pony, a show that defined a huge part of my childhood. I was completely obsessed with it. As a girly girl, I was naturally drawn to anything ponies, princesses, pink, glitter, fashion, cupcakes, love, and friendship. And My Little Pony delivered all of that in the best way possible. One of the things I loved most about this show was how each pony had their own distinct personality and style. The writers did an incredible job fleshing out each character, making them feel unique and memorable. But what really set My Little Pony apart from the other shows with a similar aesthetic was its storytelling. It wasn't just a series about ponies. There was an actual storyline that developed over time in a meaningful way. The show balanced fun and charm with real character growth and engaging plots, which made it even more enjoyable. While I wouldn't place it above the shows I've ranked in my top 10, it still holds a special place in my heart. It was one of my absolute favorites growing up. And there's no way I could make this list without giving it a well-deserved spot in my top 15. Teen Titans is easily in my top 10 favorite childhood cartoons. This show was incredible, striking the perfect balance between action and storytelling while delivering some of the best characters in animation. Each Titan had a distinct personality, yet their dynamic as a team felt seamless and natural. One of the things I loved most about the show was how each season focused on a different member of the team. For example, season 1 primarily centered around Robin. The only Titan who never got a dedicated season was Starfire. However, I truly believe that if the show hadn't been cancelled, the 6th season would have explored her story more deeply. Unfortunately, the biggest flaw of Teen Titans is how it ended. The finale left too many cliffhangers unresolved and so many lingering questions unanswered, making the show feel incomplete. To this day, I'll never get over it. But even with its frustrating ending, Teen Titans remains one of the greatest animated series of my childhood. It was engaging, emotional, and action-packed, and I loved every moment of it.
Toys? I don't want toys. I want revenge!
Codename Kids Next Door ranks at number 9 on my list. And for a good reason. As a kid, this show made me desperately want to join the Kids Next Door organization and fight against evil adults. It was just so creative and fun, perfectly capturing the wild imagination of childhood. At its core, the show was about kids simply being kids, hanging out in their treehouse, playing outside, but with a twist. Their games weren't just games. They were part of a full-fledged secret organization dedicated to protecting children from adult oppression. What made it even more compelling was how deep the world building got as the show progressed. We learned that the Kids Next Door wasn't just one small group. It was a massive, worldwide network of different sectors all working together to combat crimes against kids. One of my favorite aspects was the way they turned ordinary objects and toys into high-tech weapons. Everyday items like yo-yos, lunchboxes, and soda cans were upgraded into powerful gadgets, making it feel like anything in my toy box could have been a tool for adventure. And the villains were some of the most unique and memorable in any cartoon. Each one had a great design to represent an exaggerated version of childhood fears and adult oppression. The sheer creativity behind the show was incredible. I genuinely feel like they don't make cartoons like this anymore. It was everything you could want in a cartoon. Action-packed, funny, and full of imagination. Honestly, it felt like Spy Kids, but better.
Ginger's mother is cleaning houses. I hope she has windows.
As Told by Ginger is a show I grew to appreciate more as I got older. I enjoyed it as a kid, but it got even better when I rewatched it as I got a little older. It's something about rewatching shows like this later in life that just hits different. If I had ranked this show at a younger age, it would have still made it to my top 15, but probably not as high as number 8. However, as I matured, I gained a deeper appreciation for its storytelling, especially in how it tackled real-life experiences and personal growth. One of the things I love most about this show is how the characters actually evolve. They don't stay stuck in the same clothes or with the same personality traits as many other cartoons do. Instead, their wardrobes change throughout the episodes. And most importantly, they grow, both emotionally and physically. This made them feel more like people rather than just animated characters. What truly makes this show special for me is how much I relate to Ginger. So many of her experiences mirrored my own, from friendships to relationships to family dynamics, especially when it came to her father and her home life. On top of that, we share a love for writing and poetry, which made her journey feel even more personal to me. Overall, this show was incredibly relatable and comforting to watch. Even with the annoying characters like Dodie, it doesn't take away from how great the series is. It's one of those rare cartoons that grows with you, making it even more meaningful over time.
Oh, sure, take it inside.
No amount of therapy will ever make this moment okay.
The Fairly OddParents lands at number 7 on my list, but I should clarify that I'm specifically referring to the earlier seasons. By the time Sparky was introduced, I had already stopped watching, so I can't speak to the show's quality beyond that point. However, the original seasons were a huge part of my childhood. One of the things that stood out to me was the theme song. It was undeniably catchy and sets the tone perfectly for the show's whimsical nature. The concept of kids being assigned fairy godparents was something I absolutely loved. I remember wishing I had my own Cosmo and Wanda to grant my every wish. And speaking of fairies, I was always mesmerized by Fairy World. The pretty pink and purple color palette, which happens to be my favorite colors, and the magical setting made it feel like a place I wanted to visit. Beyond the visuals, the show was just pure fun. It was something I genuinely look forward to watching every day. To me, the humor was good, the characters were memorable, and while the episode's formula was a little predictable, Timmy makes a wish, the wish goes horribly wrong, Cosmo and Wanda tries to fix it, and Timmy learns a lesson, it never felt stale. Instead, it worked in the show's favor, allowing for endless creative scenarios and a cast of hilarious and unforgettable characters. Looking back, The Fairly OddParents was more than just a fun cartoon. It was a defining part of my childhood.
Yes, he had a big furry mustache.
The 6th spot on my list goes to The Amazing World of Gumball, a show that truly pushed the boundaries of animation. What sets this series apart is the masterful blend of 2D and 3D animation, seamlessly incorporating various styles, including CGI, stop motion, and even live action elements. This innovative use of mixed media doesn't just make Gumball visually striking, it elevates the storytelling, creating a world that feels both chaotic and immersive. But Gumball isn't just a visual masterpiece, it's a comedic powerhouse. The show thrives on its fast-paced humor, absurd situations, and self-aware writing. However, beneath all the wackiness, it also delivers moments of genuine emotional depth. A perfect example is the episode The Choices, which explores Nicole Watterson's past and the sacrifices she made for her family. It's a rare moment of sincerity that adds layers to her character and makes the show even more compelling. I actually have a full video breaking down that episode if you want a deeper dive. For me, The Amazing World of Gumball isn't just one of the best cartoons, it's a game changer. It redefined what animated storytelling could look like, proving that a show can be both hilariously unhinged and deeply heartfelt. Now we're getting into my top 5 favorite cartoons from my childhood, the ones that truly shaped my love for animation. These next shows hold a special place in my heart. They're more than just cartoons. They're a core part of my childhood, bringing me endless comfort and joy. Even now, as an adult, I find myself rewatching them, and they still hold up just as well as they did back then. Regular Show absolutely earns the 5th spot on my list, and honestly, I could rewatch it over and over again without getting tired of it. The show's humor is absurd and clever, making every episode feel unpredictable and fresh. What I love most is how it starts with such an ordinary, relatable premise. Mordecai and Rigby dealing with everyday problems at their job, only for things to escalate into different, surreal, over-the-top situations within minutes. One second they're slacking off or trying to fix a small mistake, and the next they're fighting interdimensional beings, getting trapped in video games, or dealing with supernatural curses. The contrast between the mundane and the ridiculous is what makes Regular Show so entertaining. You never know where an episode is going to take you. Beyond being just fun and chaotic, the show also has a great character development, particularly for Rigby. In the beginning, he's reckless, lazy, and constantly making things worse for everyone around him. But over time, we see him start to mature, especially after he and Eileen gets together. His growth is subtle at first, but by the end of the series, he's genuinely trying to be more responsible and take control of his life, which is something I really appreciated. It's rare for a show like this to actually let its characters evolve while still keeping their core personalities intact. I talked about this a bit in one of my videos because I think Rigby's development is one of the best parts of the series. At the end of the day, Regular Show is one of those rare cartoons that never loses its charm, no matter how many times you watch it. It's hilarious, creative, and packed with so many iconic moments that's hard not to love. It's a jolly good show.
Nuh-uh, Miranda, I do not like Tony. No, Jessica, don't kill Tony with me.
Adventure Time takes the 4th spot on my list. It's easily one of my favorites. The first couple of seasons felt more like an introduction to the characters rather than a structured narrative, but once the storyline started to develop, the show became something truly special. What sets Adventure Time apart is its ability to take elements from earlier episodes and weave them into deeper, intricate plots later on. It was always incredible to see how seemingly small moments would come back in unexpected ways, adding new layers to the story. As the series progressed, it kept getting better. The character development was phenomenal, and while the tone grew darker over time, it never lost its charm or creativity. The world of Adventure Time is what makes it so unique. It's chaotic in the sense that anything can happen, but at the same time, it's impressively structured and consistent. Something a lot of cartoons struggle with. If something significant happens in one episode, a later episode won't contradict it, which makes the storytelling feel intentional and rewarding. Ultimately, Adventure Time is one of those rare shows that balances humor, adventure, and deep emotional storytelling in a way that few others can. It's original, imaginative, and a series I always appreciate and enjoy.
And I still think you should have added more green onions.
Well, next time you can do all the cooking and I'll stand around coming up with evil plans that ultimately fail.
Coming in at number 3 on my list is Phineas and Ferb, a show that perfectly captures the magic of summer vacation. Every time I think about it, I'm instantly reminded of those long, carefree summers as a kid, where each day felt full of endless possibilities. That's exactly what this show embodied. A group of kids making the most of their break by going on wild adventures and building the most incredible inventions, all while having the time of their lives. But beneath all of the fun and creativity, Phineas and Ferb was so much more than just a summer-themed cartoon. At its core, the show followed a consistent episode formula. Phineas and Ferb would come up with some over-the-top invention, Candace would try and fail to bust them, and Perry the Platypus would secretly live a double life as Agent P, constantly challenging Dr. Doofenshmirtz on his latest evil scheme. Even though we always knew the general structure of each episode, it never got old. In fact, it made it even better because the real excitement came from seeing what crazy new invention Phineas and Ferb would build, and what ridiculous and nader Doofenshmirtz would come up with that day. The show had a great way of making every episode feel fresh and exciting, despite sticking to the same core formula. But what really made Phineas and Ferb special were the characters and their interactions. Their friendships, their dynamics, and even the running gags made the show feel enjoyable. Growing up, I really wished I had a friend group like that. One where every day felt like a new adventure. And of course, I can't talk about the show without mentioning the music. Every song was a banger. Whether it was a catchy one-off tune or the reoccurring hit, Gitchy Gitchy Goo, the soundtrack was always top tier. This show was more than just entertaining. It was a staple of my childhood. It brought me so much joy, and even now it still holds up. Without a doubt, it definitely deserves number 3 on my list.
We painted the whole house, and without getting a drop of paint on anything but the flop and blossom, what's that?
It should come as no surprise that SpongeBob ranks high on my list. And just to be clear, I'm specifically talking about the first few seasons, because those were my childhood. I truly believe that the early seasons of SpongeBob are some of the best in cartoon history. No matter how many times I rewatched them, even now as an adult, I still find myself laughing to the point of tears. The humor is timeless, the writing is incredibly sharp, and the characters are at their absolute best. But beyond being funny, there's something about the aesthetic of those first few seasons that can't be replicated. The art style, the color palette, the intentional little details like the way the bubbles float across the screen, it all adds to this calming, immersive feeling that really makes you believe that the characters are living underwater. Even the background music is iconic. The earlier seasons have such a distinct atmosphere that those later seasons just don't capture in the same way. There's a certain amount of warmth and a relaxed yet vibrant energy that makes those episodes so enjoyable to watch, whether you're a kid seeing them for the first time or an adult looking back on them with nostalgia. And then there's a deeper side of the show that I never truly appreciated as a kid. The early seasons weren't just funny. They often had clever themes and messages hitting beneath the surface. Looking back now, I've realized just how much SpongeBob had to say about topics like work-life balance, friendship, and even the struggles of adulthood. One episode that really stands out in that regard is Hooky, which I already made a video about breaking down its deeper meaning. At the end of the day, SpongeBob isn't just a cartoon to me. It's one of my absolute favorites of all time. It shaped my childhood, continues to make me laugh to this day, and easily earns the number 2 spot on my list.
Oh, now come on, I bet they're not so bad.
I know a lot of people might disagree with this one, and that's okay, but The Proud Family is my favorite childhood cartoon. It's a show I could truly relate to. Growing up as a black girl, there weren't many cartoons centered around a black family. But when I watched The Proud Family, it felt like home. I saw myself and my family reflected in the characters. The show was so relatable, especially the moments like the church scene where they're bumping He Reigns, Awesome God by Kirk Franklin, and the church was literally jumping. As a kid, church really did feel like it was jumping just like that. Then there was the Destiny's Child and Solange intro, which was iconic. Plus, the celebrity cameos were unforgettable. Mariah Carey, Mos Def, Ray J, Steve Harvey, Kobe Bryant, Alicia Keys, just to name a few. No other cartoon was doing that. The characters were unique, the writing was incredible, and they weren't afraid to tackle serious issues, even though sometimes they missed the mark. The Proud Family was special in a way that cartoons today just aren't. It's a classic. But let me be clear, I'm not saying this show is perfect. It has plenty of flaws, which I've already discussed in many videos on my channel and will continue to address in the future. But when it gets things right, it really hits home. The reason I critique it so much is because I care about it. The Proud Family is like a beloved family member who sometimes makes poor decisions. And because I love it, I want to help it be better and reach its full potential. That's why I've made so many videos about the show on my channel. To me, The Proud Family is one of those shows that sticks with you. It's not just entertainment, it's personal. But I do get why some people may not understand why I rank The Proud Family above all of these other amazing shows. But that's the beauty in our different perspectives and experiences. In my opinion, it's the most relatable and important show of my childhood. There's a charm to it that those who didn't grow up watching it and only know about it through the reboot just won't get. The ones who understand, get it, and the ones who don't, won't, and that's okay. That wraps up my top 15 childhood cartoons. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'd love to hear about your top 15 cartoons from your childhood. Comment them down below and subscribe for more content like this.